welcome to our webinar today. I'm Ashley, they, them, and I'll be your friendly neighborhood NAGT support person for today. First, we do have a few things to go over. The NAGT webinar series is a one-stop shop for increasing our community's capacity in Earth education. The webinars in our series feature novel and innovative work such as Earth education research and pedagogy, new teaching materials, and the classroom and professional experiences of people just like you. The NAGT webinar series is free and open to the public. We often get questions about whether it's okay to invite your colleagues. Yes, please. We'd love to have them. Throughout the webinar today, please feel free to use the chat box as a place for discussion, questions, comments. Additionally, feel free to use the reactions tab. Otherwise, in terms of interacting with each other in this shared cyberspace, please remember that we do still follow the NAGT Code of Conduct, which expects and endorses a professional and respectful atmosphere and values diversity in creating an inclusive, supportive, and collaborative environment. I'll drop the Code of Conduct in the chat for you to review as you have the time. And today we have Beth, Kelsey, Jillian, and Shannon here with us to give us an overview of a wide variety of summer and academic year opportunities available to undergraduate and graduate students in the earth sciences. So I'll go ahead and turn it over to them.
Awesome, thanks. My name is Beth, and we just thought we'd like to start out by getting a little bit of information about who all is watching this, so we get a sense of whether people are faculty, students, or what combination thereof, what sort of disciplines. So Ashley's going to pop up two quick poll questions. If you could fill them out, we'll get a sense for who all is in the room right now. Did those go up?
They should be. Is everyone seeing the poll?
Okay, great. Right. I think I must have just closed my version of it, so that's cool. Okay, there we go. Yep, now I see it's coming in. People are very fast. Okay. All right, it looks like nearly, let's see, we'll give people another 20 seconds or so. I'm seeing numbers that are near the number of the people in the room here, and they're not changing significantly. So I think we'll go ahead and end the poll and share the results. So what we're seeing here is that there is a good representation of undergraduate and graduate students, like roughly half undergraduates and a quarter graduate students, and the rest different levels of faculty. So, and we have aimed this at both, you know, whether somebody is an advisor or a student, there should be a lot of things to take from this. And there is many people interested in the environmental sciences, as well as, you know, pretty much solid representation across all of the other subdisciplines as well. So that helps us just have a sense who our audience is. Thanks so much for playing along with that. And now we'll go ahead and hear from Kelsey.
Okay, thank you, Beth. Okay, so welcome everyone. Again, my name is Kelsey Russo-Nixon. I work for the EarthScope Consortium, and myself is, along with my colleague Jillian, are going to discuss opportunities that we have here for students and early career scientists. If you've never heard of EarthScope Consortium, you are not alone. We are a fairly new facility, really as of January 1st, 2023. But we were two very long-standing facilities that came together and joined forces to create EarthScope. So if you've heard of IRIS and or UNAVCO, you'll know that we've been involved in geophysics research support since the 80s. And so we are a relatively new facility filled with people people who have been doing this for quite a while. And what we do is we're supporting science, we're supporting research in the realm of geophysics. And so we do that in 3 different ways. Our boots on the ground team is our instrumentation. So these are field engineers who are out in the field installing and maintaining equipment, huge GPS networks, as well as working with researchers to get that equipment and get that data. And then all that data comes in and it has to go somewhere. And so that's where our data services team comes in. And they are tasked with making our data public and relevant. And then we have our education, sometimes also called engagement side. And that's kind of where Jillian and I fit in, as well as Beth. And so we develop resources for faculty and students in the education realm, lots of outreach. We have great social media and science communication people who work for us, and then workforce development, which I think is for a lot of you are here today. And so I'm going to pop right into student opportunities. So my role at EarthScope is leading 2 out of 3 of our internship programs, but I'm going to talk about all 3 of them today. So 3 internship programs: Geo Launchpad, Recess, and our EarthScope Student Career Internship Program. Right up front, these are our kind of very strict, more strict requirements for being able to apply. So if you're applying for Geo Launchpad or Recess, you must be a U.S. citizen or permanent resident. For applying for our career student internship, you must be authorized to work in the U.S. So those are 2 different things, and if there's time at the end to talk about it a little bit more detail, I will, but also please email me if you have questions about that. I'll share how to get a hold of us at the end. And so Geo Launchpad is a program for community college students. It's exclusive to community college students. You can only apply and be eligible and participate if you are in community college at the time of your application. Our Recess program is for rising juniors and seniors typically, but this is not a strict requirement. Community college students have also applied and been accepted into the program, as well as like freshmen. So definitely apply if you fit that realm. The unique thing about the Recess internship program is that graduating seniors are eligible to apply. So if you're graduating this spring, a lot of REU programs won't accept you for the summer, but Recess, you're still eligible to participate. And then our career internship is really a mix of undergrad and graduate level students. This is not a research position. So Geo Launchpad and Recess are going to be focused on research. Career interns actually work with EarthScope staff, and I will explain a little bit more about what that means. Our biggest requirement is really that you must be a student at the time of application. However, the career intern, you can be 1 year post-graduating and still be eligible to participate. So Geo Launchpad and Recess I'm going to talk about first. They have a lot of shared benefits, and so I put them all on one slide to hopefully make it a little bit more clear. So both programs offer a stipend. It's the same amount. It's $7.20 a week. If you're working full-time, this comes to about $18 an hour. We offer free shared housing, so housing for orientation week, as well as at the university or wherever you might be completing your project at. So that will be at no cost to you. We also provide the travel funds to get to and from your home location to your project location. We do a combined orientation week. So typically a summer project is around 11 weeks long. Sometimes it's a little longer, sometimes a little shorter, but we all start on the same week, and we participate in person together. And so this is a picture of us last year out on campus at the University of New Mexico doing some seismic experiments. But we like having everyone together and being able to get to know each other kind of before we all go off and do our projects. And then throughout the summer, we do combined professional development. So these are on Zoom most of the time because we're all in different places, but we'll all come together at least once a week to talk about different types of careers. We focus a lot on science communication and writing, so being able to present and talk about your science effectively. We do field trips when we can, mostly during orientation week, and then really focusing on like what careers are available to you if you continue down this path of geoscience. Both programs focus on increasing diversity in geosciences. That is our a very big mission of EarthScope in general, I would say. And both programs offer mentorship. So it's not just your mentor working with a project, you're also very involved with us as well as mentors, and then your other fellow interns as well. So kind of a multi-tiered mentorship model happening here. And then both programs offer the opportunity to present your work at a conference in the fall that's fully funded by the programs. So what makes them different? Well, Geo Launchpad, as I mentioned earlier, is exclusively for community college students. So there are not a lot of community college exclusive programs out there. So we feel pretty proud of being able to offer this to this type of demographic. I was a community college student myself, and so this program is very near and dear to my heart. Geo Launchpad is a pre-research experience, so it is not your typical individual research experience. This is a little bit more of like learning the skills that it takes to do individual research. So we like to call it a pre-research experience. And then we typically have our students submit abstracts and present at the Geological Society of America conference that's in the fall. Recess, on the other hand, is similar to an REU, if you're familiar with that term. It stands for Research Experience for Undergraduates. This is an individual research experience. It's open to upper division undergraduates, as I said before. It's a 2-year program, so interns are welcome to come back for a second turn. And then they typically present at the American Geophysical Union, which for us is happening next week. So we've got lots of interns we're supporting there. If you'll be there, please check them out, check out their posters. So those are kind of the differences between those two programs. We do a lot together though. And so combined, we typically take in like 15 to 20 students each summer between those two programs. Next, I'm going to talk about the EarthScope Career Internship Program. So we call it Career Interns for short because it's a little bit of a mouthful, but really that explains it, I think, the best, in that we are preparing students to build professional skills and real-world work experience. So again, not research. You're going to be paired with an EarthScope staff member, and you're going to be doing work that contributes to the EarthScope mission. The projects range quite a bit. I mean, we have a financial and accounting team, we have a compliance team, so it's not all science, which makes this opportunity kind of unique and exciting. So projects range from project management. So this year we'll have an intern working specifically with our new project management office. They typically have a data science intern each year. Beth hires at least 2 interns to help develop education modules. We have science communication interns that come back each year. We've had interns work on instrumentation and like testing for accuracy. We've had meeting planning interns. So this is really kind of a more broad scope of projects. But the main benefit of this program too that I realize now isn't listed is that it's after completing the program, you're placed on our internal job list. And so if working for EarthScope one day is something that inspires you, then it gives you a little bit more of an in into the hiring process for EarthScope. So all of these programs really go between 11 to 15 weeks max, sometimes a little bit longer, and they typically are full-time during the summer. The career program is mostly remote. GeoLaunchpad and Recess are going to be working mostly in person. However, we have had remote projects for those as well. Just kind of depends on the mentor and the student needs. Orientation week is in person. So we do, I mentioned orientation week both for GeoLaunchpad and Recess. The career intern orientation is typically not a full week, but we bring interns in person together with their mentors and really introduce them to EarthScope's culture and our goals and get a little bit more familiar with the project you'll be working on for the summer. Oh, and that went too fast. And then, of course, we do professional development series. So not only, working on your project, but also really honing in on some skills that will help advance you, whether you do another internship or in your career or beyond, really. And so why complete an internship? Well, you're going to gain work experience and a competitive edge. Having this type of experience on your resume or CV before you, say, apply to a university or even graduate school can really help you get a leg up. You're going to develop relevant skills, and sometimes these skills aren't necessarily taught in a classroom setting. So, you know, we focus again on those like resumes and cover letters, what it's like to apply in an interview for a job, what it's like to communicate your science, and then of course, what it's like to present. So we'll be putting together posters and our talks and practicing those all summer as well. I think all of these are great, but the biggest one is really networking. So like meeting other students who are in similar positions as you, like have similar interests, similar paths. So being able to meet those people and add them into your, your network is a huge advantage. And then of course, all of the professionals as well. And we really like to say, like, once you're here, you're family, and we don't really let you go. But it's important, and it helps. It really can open a lot more doors that maybe couldn't have been opened before. And then you get to find out if, geophysics, geoscience, if this is really what you want to do. And then you're also getting paid and learning valuable skills that'll transfer to really anything. So even if you decide, no, I don't like this, you still got paid for it. So yay. But then really you gain all of this as a student prior to transferring to a university, to graduate school, and or to a career. And so I'm right at time, but here's how to apply. We have our deadline for all of the internship applications is February 15th. They are opening this week by December 6th, this Friday at the latest. Some career intern positions will be coming on later, so please check. Please keep checking our career portal, but really add your name to these interest forms. We're recruiting not only interns, but we also need mentors who are going to lead really great projects, especially if you're doing something in geophysics. This interest form, all it does is add your name and email, and then we'll follow up with you to kind of talk out more details. So you don't need a project right away. Just let us know you're interested and we'll reach out. And then questions, this is the best way to get a hold of the team here, is really just internships@earthscope.org. And I think that is all. I'll pass it on to Jillian now. Thank you.
Yeah, hi, I'm Jillian Haverly. And first, I'm going to actually talk about EarthScope's monthly webinar series. This series features live Zoom presentations for members of the geoscience community, and it's designed to connect researchers, educators, and enthusiasts. Our webinars run during the academic year from September to May, and they're usually held on Thursdays at noon Mountain Time. They're completely free to attend, and we share a Zoom registration link a few weeks before each webinar, so you can easily sign up. To stay in the loop, we advertise these webinars on the EarthScope general mailing list and through our social media channels. You can also watch recordings of past webinars on our YouTube channel. Don't mind going to the next slide. Perfect. So yeah, our next webinar will be with Dr. Karen Viskupik from Boise State, and it's titled Geophysics Requires Geophysicists, Strategies for Supporting Students' Awareness of and Preparedness for the Geo Workforce. So hopefully we can see some of you guys there. I'm going to now switch gears over and talk about EarthScope's short courses. We're going to explore the diverse range of technical short courses that EarthScope offers, designed to build technical skills and advanced knowledge in geophysics data processing and analysis. Our courses cover a variety of topics, from more specific multi-GNSS precise point positioning and PRIDE PPAR to our more beginner-friendly seismology skill building workshop. We can also take a closer look at the skills you can gain from these programs in the next slide. And on this slide, you can see an overview of the core skills and tools covered in each course. For instance, our GMT-SAR course dives into synthetic aperture radar interferometry, which I just said wrong, while MS-PASS focuses on seismology data processing using MS-PASS software. So we emphasize not just content knowledge, but also practical skills like computer programming and critical thinking. And that ensures that participants leave with a well-rounded understanding, ready to apply what they've learned. These courses also cover an array of target audiences, which is in the next slide. And here we can see that our core offerings of technical courses, excluding the seismology skill building workshop and our latest magnetotelluric instrumentation course, appeals to a wide range of applicants. Of these 5 courses, our INSAR ICE and GMT-SAR course is targeted towards more early career and student applicants. Our other courses are also open to students, but may appeal more to those who wish to learn more targeted skills for their research. So I'm also going to talk about our mined fluoric instrumentation course. This is our newest course, which was in person and offers a field component. This course was introductory level for those who wish to learn more about MT, but was only available for a select number of US participants. We are looking to offer a more advanced version of this course in the future. And if you go to the next slide, thanks. The Seismology Skill Building Workshop is another of our introductory programs, which attracts applicants from across the globe, targeting undergraduate students who wish to learn more about seismologic computer programming. This year, we received 1,399 applicants from 93 different countries, showcasing a fully diverse and global interest in seismology. Due to the workshop's online and tutorial style nature, everybody who applies to this course is actually accepted into it. Of the skill building applicants, the majority are bachelor students, followed by graduate students, although professionals looking to learn new skills do apply. Of our undergraduate applicants, it's not required that you're pursuing a degree in geophysics, seismology, or even geoscience. We have a number of students that have successfully completed the course from any number of diverse majors. Perfect. This workshop is structured to maximize learning and engagement. It takes place over 12 weeks in the summer, where participants complete 6 modules, each containing about 6 tutorial assignments. This amounts to over 1,000 carefully designed questions aimed at deepening knowledge and skills. One standout feature is the immediate feedback system, allowing students to learn and improve in real time. With this structure, participants build a strong foundation while honing in critical thinking and technical skills. If you're interested in signing up for the skill building workshop for the summer of 2025, or you know somebody that might be interested, you can scan the QR code and fill out a form and receive an email when registration opens. It'll bring you to a Google form. You just fill out your email, and then we will let you know when the registration opens, which should be sometime in May. And then finally, for my last slide, if you want to wrap up, I encourage you to explore the variety of technical short courses EarthScope offers. These programs are designed to meet evolving needs of our scientific community. So if you want to stay informed on our course offerings and the schedules, you can scan this QR code for more information. This is a different QR code from the last one. And we look forward to having you join us in one of these exciting learning opportunities. And now I'm going to actually let Shannon take over.
So we're switching from hearing in detail about the EarthScope offerings, and EarthScope runs the geophysical facility for the National Science Foundation, to hearing from the CRESCENT project, and Shannon will share her screen and explain what her project entails. And at the end of her presentation, I'll overview a variety of other student opportunities in the earth and in geosciences.
Yeah, thank you, Beth. Can you see my main PowerPoint screen? Okay, perfect. I have 2 screens, so I wanted to make sure. So yes, so my name is Shannon.
Slideshow. It looks like the slideshow is not started yet.
Oh, it hasn't? Okay, then I am on the wrong sharing screen. Sorry about that.
So maybe unshare and then reshare.
Hold on. Difficult.
If it's, can you unshare?
Okay, is it?
Yeah, now
You
we're
see
good.
it now?
You're on your second slide, but yes.
Okay, now I have to go back. It's letting me go back. There we go. Okay, thank you all for your patience. So yeah, my name is Shannon Fasola. I'm the Geoscience Education and Inclusion Program Manager for CRESCENT. So for those of you who aren't familiar, CRESCENT is the Cascadia Region Earthquake Science Center, CRESCENT for short. Okay, there we go. So CRESCENT is a NSF-funded center headquartered at the University of Oregon, and we are also a relatively new center. So we started in October of 2023. So CRESCENT consists of 6 center staff for program management and cyber infrastructure, as well as we have senior personnel from 14 universities, including over 40 researchers. So CRESCENT has 3 overarching goals that are carried out through 3 pillars or groups. Sorry, my computer's being touchy. Jeez. So, okay, I'm not going to touch the mouse. So yeah, the Venn diagram shows kind of our structure. So we have the science planning group. whose goal is to better develop a foundational understanding of Cascadia subduction zone earthquakes and their associated hazards. And so the science planning consists of working groups and special interest groups. The working groups are teams of scientists, engineers, and educators who are tasked with developing products that are required to close the gap between science and hazard. Some of the working groups, they focus on the synthesis and integration of existing data into community models that can then be used in both basic and applied science applications, while other working groups, they're developing tools necessary to advance our understanding of subduction zone processes in Cascadia. Now, the special interest groups, those groups are focused on kind of the critical and frontier science that will help steer our center towards its future geohazards goals. And so these groups, their areas represent interest of Cascadia that could, with additional support or development, become designated working groups. Then we have the partnership and applications group, who provides a systematic approach to collaboration between researchers and academia and those that have in agencies who have mandates to produce hazard information that stakeholders, practitioners, and the public can use and trust. And then finally, we have the Geoscience Education and Inclusion Group, which I mentioned I'm the program manager of. And our goal is to promote diversity and to train the next generation of geoscientists to address the challenges that are presented by our dynamic planet. So to address this, this initiative, it seeks to build on that capacity by providing research and training opportunities for aspiring geoscientists from minoritized and other underrepresented groups. And so I'll be going over those different programs that we offer for students and graduate students. So for our programs, to be eligible for our programs, you have to be a U.S. citizen or a resident of a U.S. possession to be eligible. And so because we have a mandate to help diversify the workforce of the future, we are interested in recruiting students from groups that are historically underrepresented in the sciences. So 4 of our programs, we have 2 for undergraduates, the undergraduate twinning program and Course to Code. Course to Code is for rising juniors and seniors, whereas the twinning program is for rising sophomores, juniors, and seniors. And then our 2 programs for graduate students and postdocs, we have technical short courses and a professional development fellowship. And so I'll go into more detail on each of these. And then again, in general, if you have any questions about Crescent or any of our programs, feel free to email me. So first we have the undergraduate twinning program. So this is a paid year-long research experience in subduction zone science and hazard research. So this program focuses on a twinning model where the student has 2 mentors from different institutions. So we call them twin mentors. And so the idea of this is to give the student a kind of mimic real-world collaboration with different institutions. Now our program is a little bit different from typical internships or REUs that you may be familiar with, where the program occurs over the summer. Some of those programs may then extend into the academic year. Where our program differs is that our students, they start in the fall and then it goes until the following summer. So 12-month program. And so the idea of this is to trying to see if this model might be less intimidating and give a slow start to the ramp up of research instead of having a 8 to 12 week summer program. So students will start in the September or October, depending on if they're a semester or quarter student, and then go until August or September. The format of the program is that students work at their home institution during the academic year, and then over the summer they have the opportunity to travel to one of their mentors' institution. And so there are both in-person and remote projects, which is dictated by what projects are submitted by mentors. So for the in-person projects, the student is at one of the institutions of the mentors. And so unfortunately, these projects are only available to students at either of the mentors' institutions since they're in person and we don't have the students traveling during the academic year. Then for remote projects, the student is at an institution different from both of their mentors, so they're meeting remotely with both mentors throughout the academic year. So we have, this year is the first iteration of this program. So we have 6 students in our first cohort, 5 of them are at the institution of their mentors, so they're doing an in-person project, and then we have 1 student who is remote. And so far it's been going well, but next year, this coming year, I'm hoping to have more remote projects to be able to have more students eligible to apply. So for the twinning program, as I mentioned, it's a paid year-long research experience. So students get monthly stipends. And so during the academic months and the summer months, you can see that the monthly stipend is slightly different. And so this reflects kind of the expected work hours, whereas during the academic year, classes come first. And so the expected hours are about 10 to 15 hours per week, plus or minus. That's not a hard deadline, not deadline, but range. And then during the summer months, where students don't have classes, expected that they'll have more time to work on their project. And so that increase in work is reflected in a higher monthly stipend. And then in addition, the students travel to and from their mentor's institution during the summer. It will be covered, as well as lodging during that visit. And so myself will work with the mentor's institution to set up lodging for the student. And then we also encourage the students to present their research at a professional conference following the program. And so we offer a stipend for students up to about $1,400 to attend a conference, which will be up to the decision between the student and the mentor. And so students can students can use this funds up to a year after the program. So they don't have to present during the program, they wait till they're finished. And then finally, students will join in a professional development and career building activities similar to what EarthScope offers in their programs, as we're working with EarthScope to run our professional development activities throughout the year. Now, student applications aren't open yet, as right now I'm working on recruiting mentors, but by mid-February, projects should be announced and then student applications will open. So stay tuned for that announcement, and then applications will close mid-March, and then hopefully by mid-April, students will receive the acceptance letters and know their pairings with the projects. So as I mentioned, we are working on recruiting mentors. So we're looking for pairs of mentors. So it's with this twinning model. So a pair of mentor consists of a project director, who's the primary mentor, primary advisor, and also a twin mentor who would be the co-advisor, would host the student over the summer. And so mentor pairs can be from any area within subduction zone and hazard research, broadly defined as science, engineering, policy, and social science. And so I've had the question come up, can people from industry get involved in the twinning program? And so the answer to that is yes. So if someone from industry pairs up with a faculty member at an institution, then that is perfectly fine. So we have an example of that this year. So here in the lower box is the 6 pairs that we have projects. And so we have a faculty at Portland State University whose twin mentor is a researcher at the USGS. So during the summer, the student will work more closely with the USGS, kind of like a little mini USGS internship. And then we also encourage faculty from 2-year colleges to apply. So we're looking for mentors from 2-year colleges as well. We have one example of that. We have a professor from Southwestern Oregon Community College whose twin mentor is faculty at the University of Oregon. And then one caveat, both mentors need to be from a US-based institution. I guess one clarification of that is if there's faculty at an institution in Canada or in Mexico, just somewhere close by, that they can pair with someone in the US. And so this is due to funding that we can't afford to send all the students, let's say, to their twin mentors over in Europe overseas due to flight costs. So that's what we're looking for, mentor pairs within the US, or I guess right over the border. So here's a link to the mentor application page. You can find out more information about the program and the link to apply. Applications will close January 30th for mentors. And then once mentor projects close, we'll then announce those projects to students and open it to student applications. The GEI committee, Geoscience Education and Inclusion Committee, and myself will review the student applications, kind of do a first pass, and then we'll forward kind of our list of top candidates to, or suggestions to each of the mentor pairs. And so the mentor pairs have the final say in the selection process. So our second undergraduate program is Course to Code. So this is a 3-week summer program that's focused on earthquake and tsunami history in the Cascadia subduction zone. So this program has 3 parts. So there's a field component, laboratory component, and computational. The students are collecting marshes, marsh sediment cores in Humboldt Bay, California. So they're looking for the evidence of subsidence from the 9.0 1700 Cascadia earthquake. So in this picture here is one of the core samples. So you see this dark material here. I know it's a little bit small. So that's soil sample that used to be at the surface before the 1700 earthquake. And then students will collect core samples, analyze the sediment, describe it, and they'll take that back to the lab. Well, they'll do a microscope analysis. And then third part of it is a computational exercise. Well, they'll learn about Jupyter notebooks, Python, and do a crustal deformation exercise, learning about the fall and the rise of the crust. And so students are introduced to a little bit of everything. And so no skills are required. The course will teach them what they need to know. So each of those are about 3 to 4 days. And so the program is based out of Cal Poly Humboldt in Arcata, California. So students they start in Eugene, Oregon at the UO, and then there'll be a 2-day field trip down to Arcata where they'll learn about local geology, tectonics, but then they'll be based out of Cal Poly, staying in the dorms for the 3 weeks. The program has not run yet, so the first run will be in this June, June 7th through the 28th. And so I know these dates, they conflict with the quarter system. And so I think the finals week for quarter students is the first week of this program, but we were trying to find a balance between semester students who've already been out for a month versus quarter students who are just finishing up. And so we do encourage quarter students to apply. If students need accommodations to take their final exam during the first week of Course to Code, we will make accommodations. We can also supply a letter of support to students and professors if they are looking to apply. But we have room for, we'll be accepting 10 students for the program. And these are just some pictures of kind of the example fieldwork. So I know the program hasn't run, so these are students from the Course to Code instructors from their lab. And so just gives you an example of what you'll be doing out in the marshes, collecting cores. Wait, no, I went backwards. Okay, so Course to Code includes a $2,000 stipend and also travel to and from the program. So to and from Eugene will be included, as well as money for funds for field equipment. So because of the type of work that they'll be doing, students will need rubber boots, for example, and so we'll help cover that. And then also meals and lodging are included, as students will be staying at the dorms in Cal Poly Humboldt, and they'll also be have a meal plan. As for course credit, if students are interested in course credit for the program, we encourage them to talk to their advisors, and they can apply through their home institution. And then the code instructors, we can supply a pass-fail for the student's home institution if they're interested in receiving course credit. So as I mentioned, the student application is open now. So we are accepting applications. Applications will close middle of February, and then we'll send out acceptances by mid-March. Okay, so those were our 2 undergraduate programs, and then we have 2 programs for graduate students, early career postdocs. And so this is a professional development fellowship. So it's a travel fund. So last year we had 5 students, and we were advertising this for the NAGT Earth Educators Rendezvous. So we had 3 students receive the fellowship, and they attended the meeting. 2 others attended a different meeting as schedules didn't work out for the Earth Educators Rendezvous. But we will be offering this again in 2025, but to be determined on when, because the Earth Educators Rendezvous isn't offered every year, we're still working out the details of which conference to advertise or how we want to do it. But stay tuned, check out the website. There'll be updates there on when this is announced, but we'll likely be giving out another 3 to 4 awards for 2025. And then my last slide, this is another one that's under development. So these are technical short courses, kind of similar to what EarthScope is doing with their short courses. And so these will be hands-on, kind of 2 to 3 days, to be determined if they're in person. But because they're under development, I don't have the details of when, where, how yet. But the idea is that there's a machine learning focused on geoscience short course being developed by our scientists in our working groups. So that'll be sometime in 2025, potentially over the summer. So stay tuned. And so to be able to stay up to date on the status of our programs and when we offer them, you can subscribe to our newsletter. We send out updates that way. Join our Slack, or follow us on social media. That'll be kind of the best way to get updates on our programs. But that is all that I have. But I will turn it back over to Beth.
Awesome, thanks. Could you advance to the next slide, please?
Yeah.
So you've heard sort of a deep dive of opportunities related for students and to some extent early career from a geophysics organization, from a geohazards organization. And now I want to sort of overview a more broad range of things in other parts of the community. This webinar series is sponsored by NAGT, which is the National Association of Geoscience Teachers. And so I want to highlight some of the things that that organization offers. They actually have quite a bit specifically for students. The Earth Educators Rendezvous, which was mentioned a slide or two earlier, which is now happening every other year, has whole sessions for graduate students, especially for professional development. But there is a for students page on the NAGT page. The membership is only $35 a year. And it includes things like access to the memberships, lists of field camps, scholarships potentially for attending field studies, and career preparation for graduate students who are looking to be in the geosciences. So I would say if you're looking for sort of professional development, the NAGT is a great place to go. Next slide, please. So for instance, there are going to be 3 online workshops in 2025 for students and beyond. So the first 2 bullets here, facilitating effective group projects and course design, are 2 things related to teaching better in the earth sciences that are for any level, but they definitely have graduate student attendees. And then preparing for an academic career in geoscience is intended for graduate students and postdocs. That will be happening in August. The application for that's not quite open yet, but the application for the other 2 is open. I went to that like 15 years, 20 years ago when I was growing up, and that really helped me, I can say. It was in person at the time. Next slide. And then the next step after the one for graduate students and postdocs is the early career faculty workshop, and that is in person. It is in June. It will be in Minnesota. Oops, you went back. Minnesota this year, and that's for faculty in their first 3 years of a faculty position, and very helpful if one is looking to strategize for their career moving forward. Next slide. We have 2 slides here that were contributed by Cindy Hall of NASA. So I am not an expert on these, but she is on the call, so she can specifically take questions related to NASA opportunities, which opportunities range from educators and high school students and educators in K-12 up through undergraduate and graduate students to work on things like climate change. There's airborne research study, which is an internship not unlike some of the undergraduate internships you've heard about already. There's support for future graduate students, so future investigators with some research money and early career money as well for people in the early parts of their career. Next slide. So again, there's like a landing page for the NASA internships in general, the GLOBE project, which is related to promoting science literacy and I believe also data access, and DEVELOP, which is really bridging this gap between like all this awesome data and what do real people do about it and societal impact and things like that. So NASA has a real richness of opportunities. And again, Cindy will be able to, she's just put some stuff in the chat and she'll be able to field specific questions after one more slide. So we'll go to the last slide in the main part of the presentation. And so again, this is on our webpage, the webinar webpage, so you can link out and learn about more of these things. But the Institute for Broadening Participation, the first bullet point here, has put together a directory, which can be very helpful if you're like, oh, I haven't seen anything yet that's quite the right thing, that has STEM opportunities all the way from middle school students up through university faculty related to a career training and education. So you can look for what you're interested in through that. The U.S. Geological Survey, the USGS, has a variety of programs for undergraduates, graduate students, and postdocs, which include things like internships. The statewide California Earthquake Center, so much like CRESCENT, but actually more geared towards California, has research internships, again, fit for undergraduates, very similar to the ones you've heard about in more detail. If you are into atmospheric studies, both the University Consortium for Atmospheric Research and the National Center for Atmospheric Research have internships at various levels. And NCAR actually has all the way from high school up to grad students. So if you are more into the atmosphere side, those are two great ways to look at things if it's not as much the solid earth. And then again, summer programs for undergraduates interested in research through the Keck Consortium. So those are places you could go and investigate more on your own. I would say at this point, we left 15 minutes nearly at the end here because we really wanted to be able to have a robust opportunity for people to ask questions. So if you have a complicated question, feel free to raise your hand and unmute. We'll call on you and you can unmute, or please put things into the chat if you would like to know more about particular programs. And maybe while people are formulating their thoughts, I might even invite Cindy to unmute and share her camera and correct anything that I got wrong about the NASA part. But,
hi, can you see me?
Yep, sure
Okay,
can.
great. Thank you so much for including our slides. You did a great job. I don't have much to correct.
If you could back up to those slides, Shannon.
Our
Sorry.
projects range from climate change research to atmospheric composition, air quality, agriculture, water resources, kind of run the whole gamut of the earth sciences. And I did put when they're due in the chat. But thank you again. You did a great job. And the QR code takes you and it gives you more information on all of those. I will say the future investigators, those are for graduate students as the future investigator, but they are grants. So you have to have your mentor serve as the principal investigator, and your institution submits that on your behalf. But we do consider those grants to the students, even though they're going to the PI. But yeah, I'll be glad to answer any questions. And again, thank you for allowing us to share this information.
I think if people have any specific questions for Cindy, again, you could raise your hand or put it in the chat. I'll fill the time by answering a few things that are in the chat already. So we have, does having undergraduate research experience through our universities in geoscience taken into consideration as far as being accepted into the recess program? Oh, and then Kelsey added, the application asks if you've been involved in an RU, but it is not it's sort of neither for or against. Kelsey, do you want to, it's neither for or against, it's just something we take into account. But you aren't better served from having research, or you shouldn't try to hide it if you have had research experience. We just want to hear about it from you, and what motivates you and why you want to do it. maybe I'll even go a little bit farther back in the list. There was a back and forth about a student who's here on a student visa asking about the career internship program. And so that, if you remember, that is one where you actually just need to be eligible to work in the US. So that means, especially for students that may have on-campus work, even though they are international, it is likely that you would be able to apply and be eligible for the EarthScope career internship program, which is not true for all internship programs. Many of them do require citizenship or residency in the US because of their funding model. And what you would want to ask your university's International Students Office is, can you do a CPT? And a CPT is a curricular practicum, okay, practical training. And that means you, in most cases, you would take a 1 or more credits over the summer as an independent study that also includes your internship, if that makes sense. And we have had students in the past that use the CPT as a way to participate in the career internship program. So you would want to start that conversation with your university if you are an international student.
So yeah, I can answer one of these questions. And I started typing it, but I figured I'd just say it out loud. So someone had asked, is the Course of Code program only targeted to students studying in the US, not from institutions abroad? So unfortunately, only students in the US or its possessions are eligible, as it's due to tax reasons. So our stipends are taxable. And so you have to be able to pay taxes in the US. We have students fill out W-9, and so it's unfortunately due to the logistical tax reasons. But hopefully in the future, we'll be able to offer more for international. But at the moment, unfortunately, only students from the US citizens. Or I guess you were eligible to work in the US.
So that might be another case, and that might be something of, if somebody has work permits on their campus, they might be able to take it for a curricular practical training. CPT
Yeah, I'll
type of a
talk
thing.
to you later, Beth, to find out more about that, because I didn't know about that one. So
Okay, yeah, and then you need to check with Oregon to see if that's
see what the rules are.
Charles Whitaker, you can unmute and ask your question.
Yeah, hi, thanks. I had a question for Shannon. I was just curious, specifically with the twinning program that you had talked about before. So if you do not attend one of those universities mentioned that already has a pairing in that list, you're not eligible for any of the in-person ones, only the remote ones?
Unfortunately, yes.
Okay.
I'm hoping to have more remote projects, but so last year was the first year it ran, and it was a short kind of application phase. So I'm hoping with this year it's been open longer that we can get more remote projects. But it's because the student is working at their home institution that they have to be at one of their mentors institutions. So it's dependent on what the mentor. Some of the projects they may need to be in person to do some analysis or whatever, but it was dictated by the mentors. And so for example, there's a project from San Jose State and University of Oregon. So then I advertised that to the geology department, physics department, computer science, all the kind of related to both institutions, and then was recruiting students from that. But hoping to have more remote projects.
Cool, thank you. And then those remote projects would also follow that same like twinning model though, where you would just be working with a remote mentor, and then in the summer you would go to an in-person location. Yeah, so the student is working year-long on some research project, and the just difference is if you're working with your mentors during the academic year remotely or in person. So for example, for the in-person project, one of those mentors is at a different institution. So I've been keeping up with the mentors and the students, and when I've heard they've been doing like weekly meetings where the twin mentor zooms in, and then the student may be in the lab with the professor. And then for the remote, the student and both mentors have Zoom meetings weekly or bi-weekly. And then over the summer, they can travel to one of their mentors' institutions. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thanks. I know it's a bit complicated to explain because we're trying this new style. So good questions.
So we have a question. Are there any programs eligible for students who are not from the USA and don't study there either? So internship programs, not not of any of the ones that were primarily featured here, but the seismic skill building workshop and some of the other technical short courses, at least for EarthScope, and Jillian, I see, is nodding her head and unmuted, and she could say more, but like, yes, we get lots of international people for those.
Yeah, a number of our technical courses are open for students that are not in the US, don't plan on being in the US, but the skill building workshop, you don't have to be in the US, you don't have to plan, and you are automatically accepted. So the other technical short courses that we offer, you have to kind of fill out the registration, and then you might get accepted if you fit whatever criteria that they have. But the skill building workshop, you register and you're automatically in.
And people, and again, that gives people a variety of basic level seismic data processing skills, which also includes some coding skill, so you're applying it towards seismic learning, because like, who doesn't love studying earthquakes more, right? But actually a lot of the skills in there would be applicable to a variety of disciplines, as so far as you be learning sort of technical computing skills of a variety of sorts.
Yes, and I'm actually going to put the interest form into the chat, and you can just put your email on that, and then you'll be given an email when our registration opens up. Because that's the thing that we find most is after registration closes, we get people that are emailing asking to be let in, and at that point it's too late. So everybody gets in, they just have to apply on time.
Yeah, I will add to
Starts
that.
at the end of May or the beginning of June, I think, right? For that one?
So the workshop moves around a little bit, but it should be around May when we open, and the workshop itself should start in June, but it moves around a little bit.
A lot of the technical short courses are in the summer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to add, I helped teach the seismology skill building workshop the first couple of years with Jillian. So I just wanted to throw another shout out to that it is a great program. You don't need to have any coding experience to begin with. I had zero coding experience going to grad school, and those types of tutorials helped me get through. So I highly recommend the skill building workshop.
I'll also just say a little plug for the internships. I was an IRIS intern years ago, and it was a great opportunity. So all of the other internships that we offer now at EarthScope are also really great opportunities, and I highly encourage.
See, there's one question. Does the twin mentorship remote provide travel to visit the mentor over the summer? So yes, no matter if you're a remote project or an in-person project, travel will be covered over the summer. So for the in-person, let's say you're at one of the mentors' institutions, then you would be traveling to the other mentors over the summer to then get to know them more. And then for the remote, I guess you can decide between which mentor you'll be visiting over summer, and that will be up to the student and the mentors depending on availability and schedule. This is the first year that this is run, so the twinning students just started this fall, so it's kind of a work in progress to see kind of what the ins and outs, kind of those specifics. But yeah, travel will be provided for both types, and then as well as lodging.
And I'll say out loud, because this is great and I didn't know it, Kelsey put into the chat the directory that I mentioned called from the Institute of Broadening Participation, where you can search for all different opportunities. You can also select for international students. And so that is a way to search for opportunities that we off the top of our heads are not able to answer. One last question I'll take from Ahmed. So someone who is eligible to work in the US, what programs to consider so it could be a little confusing, like which ones am I eligible for? I could say in the EarthScope land, the career interns. For CRESCENT, Shannon's going to work on that.
Yeah, so far,
and for the others, I'll just finish, for the others, you'll have to look at it individually. We do not have a comprehensive list of that right now. But now you know that for international students is something you need to look at carefully for each program. Some of them will and some of them won't. Sorry, go Shannon.
Yeah. So I learned this for one of our fellowships. They were an international student, but because they had lived here for X amount of years, I think they were considered a permanent resident. So I think it's, again, I may be above my knowledge of the tax world and the specifications, but it's US resident or permanent resident. So I think it depends on how many years you've been in the US where you can consider if you're eligible to receive the stipend. So it's because our stipends are taxable that's kind of where that complication comes into play. So right now, the twinning and course to code that those are receive stipends. For the technical short courses, to be determined on if those will be kind of just free form, as in no payment form. So if we don't offer payments or stipend for the technical short courses, then I would assume that those would be eligible for international students. But yeah, stay tuned. I apologize, they're in development, so I don't have much answers on the specifics yet. I just know that they will be happening at some point, at least one next year. But that's as much as I can say.
Thanks, Shannon. Thanks, everyone. Ashley, you're on.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Kelsey, Shannon, Jillian, and Beth. This is a really wonderful overview of some of the opportunities available to students. If you have any more questions for any of our wonderful presenters, feel free. I think some of you shared your email throughout the presentation today, but you can also send me an email. I'm the person who's been emailing you. Hello. And I'll direct it to them. Otherwise, I'm going to go ahead and close us out for today. We do have a webinar evaluation. If you'd like to fill that out, that will give us nice feedback, and also will give you the opportunity to fill out the certificate of attendance. So you'll just get an email certifying that you attended our webinar today. And that's not a continuing education credit. It's just an email confirmation that you attended with the title and the amount of time you spent in our webinar today. You'll be able to find all of the resources and the recording from today's webinar on the webinar page. Just give me a few days for the recording. We do send it out so it can be captioned, so it's more accessible. And also join me patiently in waiting for our next webinar in the new year. This is the last webinar of the term. And finally, on my slide here, you can see that there is a link to the webinar series homepage where you can find the webinar schedule, the archive of past webinars, and information about our sponsoring projects and programs. Thank you again, everyone. I hope you have a great day.